I'm glad you're taking a break from playing with your Boombas in Bone Lab, but I want to take a moment to talk about a little bit of drama that I did get upset about the other day, a little bit on Twitter. Made that mistake, but it all arises from a tweet from Denny Unger, the CEO of Cloudhead Games of Pistol Whip, who's having an amazing, great conversation with the Flat to VR community about injector mods that he called poison based on Thrill Seeker's video a couple back. Now, Thrillseeker made this video about injector mods. I've made one as well, but Thrillseeker arguably has the largest voice in VR. So when a developer sees something that they vehemently disagree with from a creator that's going to have a lot of people listening to him, that's where these great conversations happening. I would love to have that voice that Thrill has. So if you do enjoy this unrehearsed, unscripted, zero cut thought process, please subscribe and hit that like button. But I did mull over this amazing conversation this thread has. I'll link the thread in the video description. And I did bring my comments out on Twitter and realized in 180 characters, you're just setting yourself up for failure. And I was very upset with some of the reactions to it. Not to my comment, but how they were attacking devs. That is uncalled for, because in reality, both enthusiast crowd and the dev crowd in there, both their points could actually be true at the same time. So let's talk about that. So what these injector mods are that are being called poison in a nutshell is they are a mod that you can inject into any traditional flat game that is based on the Unreal Engine, such as like the old Gears of War, Stray. There's all these games, right? And with relative ease, and I say relative ease because I'm not a dev myself and I will never speak for the ease in which you can do it, but from what I'm told, it's relatively easy to take these Unreal-based traditional games, port them over to VR, tweak them, and have full 6 degrees of freedom support. And speaking with the Flat to VR community, additionally, bringing in motion support is possible in the future as well. This could create a wide range of content that is both amazing and fills a void of content that I think many people are feeling in VR. But this all started, of course, with that poison tweet, about how they're really bad for VR. And that's because there is one camp that feels one way and another a different way, but they're probably both right. But we need to figure out which one matters more a little bit here, and that's the point of this drama. So on one hand, you have people that are vehemently against injector mods, or really modding games at all in VR that could hurt the new user experience, despite if that would be the normal progression of a new user going from, say, Beat Saber to all of a sudden their first game modding Skyrim. Who knows? But either way, the point is, and by the way, I'm not doing any cuts in this video, but I wrote it all down because I did not want to mess this thought process up because I think it's important. But basically, you have one group that is looking at the new user experience, new users coming into VR and looking at that landscape. It's entirely possible on that camp, it's true that VR really is a piece of shit to most people. Like, I've been traveling the country for the past month a little bit and speaking with a lot of people, meeting people I haven't seen in a while, and the comment came up a lot, hey, how's your metaverse bullshit going? And I'm like, what? And we talk, and you realize how much of a gimmick it really is to a lot of people. And I'm not saying that's true everywhere, but it is apparent that it is one viewpoint of a lot of people. Many of them tried VR at one point and had a poor experience, and because you would never want to pay for something or acknowledge something might be cool when you have a bad experience, because we get put into our bubbles and never want to admit that things can change, like, you're just turned off to VR forever. So to some developers and to some non-developers too, that first user experience has to be perfect. There has to be zero chance that they could unfortunately be guided, whether by their own research, by enthusiasts influencing them, or any other factor. It is important and imperative that the new user experience never could possibly be hurt, because if it is, that detriment sets back VR way more than any potential content drought. So that's kind of one camp. And if I misspoke on that for any developers, especially on this tweet, Denny, I apologize. I'm trying to understand. That's sort of how I am reading it. Now, at the same time, though, let's talk about the enthusiast side, which doesn't negate, well, we're acting like it negates the developer side, but in reality, they both could equally be true at the same time. The enthusiast market, let's be real, there is a huge content drought. The second you become a VR user, you have some amazing titles. You have Pistol Whip. You have Beat Saber. You have Super Hot. You have all these games that we know are good. But when you're in VR and you're playing for a certain amount of time, that time's going to vary from person to person, you eventually get to a content point where you elevate past that. You want more deeper experiences, more targeted to VR experience, ones that might be a little more comfortable, that they push the envelope. And once you get to that level, well, we're really lacking in content. I don't think that's up for debate. I think once you pass a certain comfort level in VR games, the content there is just not plentiful. But now you start seeing these games coming out, like Bone Lab, for instance. I just talked about in the last video. Check it out, please. Got great responses to that video. But it's clear, Stress Level Zero has made it abundantly clear and said it, that they're not making this game for casual users. It is for the enthusiast crowd. And with that, with all the hype, it is probably arguably one of the most hyped games we've had since Half-Life Alyx. There's going to be new users who have a bad experience. But the point of the enthusiast crowd, and again, wrote this down so I don't mess it up, it could at the same time be true that once a VR user acclimates a little, that the content drought is so large and so vast that retention of headset use gets hurt so bad. We know retention for VR headsets really isn't good because there's no content. That because the retention gets hit so hard, that is a bigger problem for VR overall than a new user potentially having a bad experience. So at the end of the day, yes, the new user experience is insanely important, but so is the content for people in it and retention. The question would be, which one of these matters more for the longevity of VR? And of course, the answer is it's going to meet in the middle. But when I see this, I personally see VR at a really good point right now where diversity of product is possible. And diversity of product was not possible back in the day. Back in the day, and I'll speak for the Meta Store because unfortunately, or for better or for worse, they control most of that market share. The controls on comfort settings in that store were absurd. Getting any game approved had to be comfortable. That was paramount. You could not be losing any frames, and if it did, your game was going to be in Apple Lab hell forever. It's very clear lately on some of the games that are getting released that these comfort setting limitations are being lifted a little bit, and we now have some more wiggle room, and I think that's important. At the end of the day, I don't think it should be, it's kind of like a football game. I don't know if anyone's a huge football fan, but back in the day when the Patriots were like scoring like 70 points a game to like 20 on the others, and people were like, stop bullying them, stop. It's not always the offense's job to stop themselves. That's the defense's job. So if the offense is game developers right now, many of them should push the envelope, in my opinion, and try things that are not comfortable. Maybe like these injector mods and these games out there. And then the defense is the platform holders who should do a better job of curating the right content to the right people. And that's the happy medium. At the end of the day, I like seeing games like injector mods because regardless of what they may do to the user who tries them, they're a proof of concept of the demand of experiences that people want. And when that demand is proven time and time again, which it slowly is, other developers will take that, run with it, and elevate their VR experiences to meet that now proven demand. Maybe not go full hog, like they're not just going to port Half-Life Alyx and go, we're done, here's the money. But what they'll do is they'll take that content where their normally comfort setting level is here, and they'll try new things that are a little higher. I think that's good for the ecosystem. This is a really complicated debate. I don't even know if I've done a good job here explaining this. At the end of the day, I'm just kind of happy to see the diversity of content start to elevate a little bit, us take more chances, even if that is at the detriment of a possible new user. I just think it's more the platform's responsibility to help guide them, and we need to experiment a little bit to keep things moving. That's it. Let me know your thoughts. I've done my best with like literally 2 sentences of notes here. That's it, guys. See you next time, Space Cowboys. Peace.